we're very happy to have you guys here today for this event. Happy to be working with the I Am That Girl organization and doing our small part in what is a tremendously important initiative. And something that's very important for Glu because we actually are very much a company that embraces games for females, games that are made by females. This is an amazing group right here, and they're just representative of the talent that we have on the female side of the company. About 65 or 70% of our revenue comes from games that appeal to females. So I feel like we're one of the companies that are like really trying to kind of carve new territory in the ground in this space. But you can't really do it effectively unless the games are made by, or we believe, made with the female contribution. So this is a really important initiative for us for that reason. On a personal note, I was raised by a working mother. I have two sisters, two daughters, two high school daughters. Hell. But you know, it's very personal for me in that, you know, I want a world for them, a working world for them, where they get the same opportunities and the opportunity to create and innovate and establish something that's meaningful as an equal member of the workforce. So this is why this is personally so important, and I'm so glad that we're part of it. So I'll leave you guys to this incredible panel, and look forward to hopefully many more of these. All right, thank you.
So echoing Nick, I just want to thank everyone for being here today, especially I Am That Girl. We have girls tuning in from all over the country watching the live stream right now, and we'll have some questions with them at the end. So super excited to be working with them. On Monday, we kicked off a social sharing campaign with Covet Fashion, where we encourage everyone to start their day off on a positive note, and hashtag #GloBeThatGirl. So if you go to glu.com/GloBeThatGirl, we have a bunch of inspirational quotes, some of which came from our brands, including Shoshana, Nicole Miller, and Air. And you can post that on your Instagram, Twitter, Facebook with the hashtag #GloBeThatGirl. And for every share, Covet Fashion will donate $1 to the organization. So it only takes $25 to sponsor a girl in the program for the entire year. So we can have a really huge impact. We're trying to get to 20,000 shares. And what the organization does is they teach you confidence and leadership skills, and they're really trying to change the way that women view each other, how they view themselves, and really gain confidence in the workplace. So it's something I feel very passionate about. I'm very honored to be sitting up here with these lovely ladies today, and I think it's going to be a really good panel. I do want to kind of take a moment, too, to recognize all the incredible women that are in this audience right now, too. I think everyone has their own interesting path that led them to where they are. We have our Covet content team who's created over 10,000 different style challenges in Covet over the last 5 years. It's pretty incredible. We have our brands team, which works with really cool brands like Calvin Klein and Nicole Miller. And they've kind of helped, you know, bring all of that and make fashion accessible to women all over the world, which is pretty incredible. Cheers. And we have women from all different backgrounds, from game designers to engineers to QA testers. And I think that's what makes me really proud to work at Glu, is we have so many inspiring women here. And also so many incredible men that showed up and support what we're trying to do here, which is really amazing. So speaking of incredible women, I'm very honored to be up here with 3 of them. We have Becky Ann Hughes, who is Vice President and General Manager at Glu Mobile. She leads our Glu Play studio with games such as Cooking Dash and Gordon Ramsay Dash. Since joining the Glu Play team in 2010, she has spearheaded tremendous growth of the studio while guiding the Dash franchise to more meaningful financial success. While I don't get to personally work with her on a daily basis, just prepping with her and talking to her about this panel, I got so inspired by everything that she was saying, and I was like, wow, this woman is super badass, and I was really excited to have you on the panel.
Thanks for having me.
Next up is Sarah Fuchs. She is our General Manager of Covet Fashion. She's been in the gaming industry for over 18 years and in mobile in the last 8. We were very fortunate to have her join the Covet Fashion team back in January, and I just love the energy that you brought to the team. I feel very honored to work with you, and I love how you really inspire everyone to support each other. You give everyone an opportunity to talk, to have a voice in the room, and that's been really, really valuable to have on our team so far, so thank you. Last but not least is Judy Chen, our Director of Product Management and Data Science at Crowdstar, which is the studio that produces Design Home and Covet Fashion. She has a PhD from MIT, was previously a data scientist at Stitch Fix, which is pretty cool, big fan of that company. She is unapologetically herself, and that's why we love her so much at the studio. She truly has a spark and just an energy that is unmatched, and I'm very excited to have her here.
Really honored to be here.
Thank you. So what I loved hearing from all of you while we were prepping from this panel is all the different paths that you've taken to get where you are. Judy started out as an engineer, Sarah started out in PR, Becky Ann started out working with restaurants, and I think it's really cool just kind of see how you can take your different passions and kind of mold them together to create a really awesome career. So I think we're going to have a really good discussion today. So with that, I think we can jump in and get started. All right, first question. How did you get started in the industry, and what does your current position involve? Who wants to start?
I just have a water bottle.
You're loud enough. Okay. We knew it would be fine.
I am loud enough, and I was told no cursing, so I'm going to do my very best. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming today. It means a lot to us, especially on the Covet team, and thank you, Amanda, for those amazing introductions. How I got started in the game industry. I like to say that I fell into it. Not literally. I didn't stumble into EA and fall into it, but I started out wanting to do PR for nonprofits. And I also grew up in Nashville and went to school in Washington, D.C., and I was like, I'm done with Nashville, although now Nashville's super cool again. Not back then, not in the 80s. And I wanted to live in San Francisco. So I moved out to San Francisco with no job, deciding that I was going to get a job in PR for nonprofit and be able to afford rent in San Francisco. So that didn't happen. I got a job in PR for video games, which was really exciting for me. And I spent about a year doing that. And then after a year, the company shut down, and I said to my roommate, whose girlfriend was a recruiter at EA, hey, could you take a look at my resume? I'd love your feedback. And she said, actually, you have relevant industry experience. Do you want to come apply for this job at EA? And I said, yes, I do. Went for the interview, got the offer the next day, and have been in the industry ever since. So I fell into it, I stumbled into it, and I'm very happy to be here.
I'm also very excited to be here. This is a great cause, and I'm really happy to see all the folks that are here. I also kind of stumbled into it a little bit, but I actually, after college, I just wanted to be a professional. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had done work in the hospitality industry with hotels and restaurants, and so I found a job at Black Angus Steakhouse as a marketing manager. Kind of started there, worked through it. After about 6 years, it was super boring, like really boring. Every year you do the same thing. It's so super slow paced. And I actually have been playing video games my entire life, and I just really thought it would be great to get in the industry. Somehow I got a call from Play First, and I was lucky enough to start as a product manager there, or a product marketing manager there, and loved it. The pace is so much faster. You just get to work on really interesting things. And I love the current team I'm with, which most of us have been together for about 6 years. Love the team, and it's just every single day is a joy to be working here.
My story is really short. I decided one day that I wanted to work at Crowdstar, so I looked up LinkedIn, the CEO of Crowdstar at the time. I sent him an email and I said, hi, I'm a data scientist. I have a PhD from MIT. I play Covet Fashion. I have a closet value of $2 million. How can I help you?
The rest is history. So did you all think you would always work in gaming? And if not, what made you make the switch?
Yeah, I think for me, it was just I love playing games. I play lots of hardcore games. I play a lot of casual games as well. Last year, my favorite game was Horizon Zero Dawn, and I actually dressed up as Aloy for that last year for Halloween. So yeah, I just always loved games, and I wanted to make the switch. Mm-hmm.
I'm a gamer. I think I have some sort of weird finger disease now because I have over 1,000 games on my iPad.
1,000 games. I love it. I did not think that I was always going to be in games. Like I said, I fell into it. I played a ton of games when I was a kid. I had the original NES, played some Oregon Trail, some Number Munchers, all in Castlevania, going really old school. And then I took a break until I found The Sims back when The Sims first came out. And then, I fell in love again with games, and so here I am.
So do you all think that the industry needs to think differently about how it designs games for women?
Well, first of all, the industry needs to design games for women.
Yes.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is, as I think Nick mentioned earlier, got to bring women to the table in terms of design and leadership, because otherwise you just have, no offense to dudes, but you just have a bunch of dudes sitting around wondering how to put together a game for women. And what ends up happening, and unfortunately that happens a lot. So what ends up happening is you have all these games that are kind of one-dimensional and to some extent don't really sort of understand how women work. And so they go after what's really easy, which is the sort of the teeny boppers, the girls. And I think Crowdstar is very unique. Glu is very unique in that way, in that all of our games actually index towards the older women and the women who are notoriously difficult to reach online. Anyone who's in gaming or even in commerce will tell you that.
I can only second what Judy was saying. I think, games that are geared for women should be made by women. Not only by women, not exclusively by women, but led and thought about for women. I mean, I think we have a huge untapped market. I think about my mother, who's 70, and played We Rule ridiculously when I was first working on that product, and plays Words with Friends all the time. And I said, Mom, now I'm working on Covet Fashion. Will you play it? And she was like, oh, I don't play games. And I was like, no, you do play games. you play games and you spend money, and this is my game. Throw me a bone. And once she got over the hump of, oh, it's okay for me to play games in my spare time, because I think a lot of women feel like it's not okay to play games in our spare time, she was hooked and she loves it. So I think we need to make it okay for women to play games, and I think we need to have women at the table designing the game.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think for me, it's overall about equality and diversity within the studio, so you have a really good discussion that's going, because that'll lead to the best product in general. I think that when it comes to the industry in general, casual games market, for example, there are no strong female characters in the casual games market right now. And that's something that we really want to try and tap into over the next year with the game that we're working on for Diner Dash Town. We're building Flo up as the strong female character that she's always meant to be. And that's super exciting. And that takes equality and diversity of thought through the entire studio.
So thinking about all of the women from I Am That Girl that are currently watching this nationally and are probably either in high school or in college kind of thinking about their careers and what they want to do, what advice would you give them on how to get into an industry that is traditionally more male-dominated, such as tech or gaming?
I might start out with that, and then we'll kind of riff off. But so in general, when I think about equality, so my parents never treated my brother or I as different types of people. I've never thought of myself as not equal. So that's really important. You've got to think of yourself as an equal. And then when you're in the industry, it's important not to worry about it being a male-dominated industry. Like, it's just going to get in your head. Don't worry about that at all. And don't let anybody take that from you. Do not give permission for people to hold you back. That's really important. But I think in general, if you have a strong set of values that you hold on to and that you believe in, just do that and be your best self, and you'll do great.
I mean, turn it on. Here we go. I second that 100%. Don't be afraid to have a seat at the table, and don't let anybody push you away. Don't let people talk over you. If you have a point that you want to make that point. And I forget that congresswoman's name who doesn't cede her time, but that is such a strong example. Don't let anybody take that away from you. But if you want to get into the games industry, think about, or any tech industry really, think about what you really want to do. Think about what skills you need to have, because at the end of the day, when you're here, it's about the work. It's, don't be distracted by, I'm a woman. It's just, it's about the work and it's about what we can do. But if you want to get into it, think about that work. Think about what you want to do. Think about what you can really contribute. Learn as much about that as you possibly can. Speak to people who are doing what you want to do, and start building up that confidence to be able to move into the industry.
What I love,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know what to add to that. That was a just amazing set of answers. I would just say you will hear over and over again, make sure you have a seat at the table. Make sure you have a seat at the table. I still see that even in our studio, that all the boys sit at the table and all the women are sitting behind, right? So make sure you have a seat at the table. But at the same time, understand that you need to bring something to the table as well. So it works both ways.
What I love so much about Judy's story of just like reaching out to the CEO is, she had the courage to go out and ask. Like, you don't get what you don't ask for, so never be afraid to just go out there and ask.
I do that a lot.
Yeah. She has no shame in asking for anything. Exactly. But, the worst he could have said was no, or just ignored her, and, she would have been no worse off. So you just never know unless you ask. So I think it's really important.
Can I add one thing to that? Mm-hmm. Just to add to that point, we had an internship position available for Covet Fashion this summer, and we got a ton of resumes in, but we had one person, she's sitting here with us right now, who reached out on LinkedIn to me, to some other members of the team, and I said, I love this initiative, bring her in. And so now here she is from New York, so we're really happy she's here.
Yay! All right. So unfortunately, women still make up less than 23% of the games industry workforce. Why is it important to have more balance in the industry and in the tech industry in general?
I'll kick that one off. We're making games for everybody. We're making games for, primarily for women on Covet Fashion, but we want to make games for every person, every race, creed, color, religion, orientation. We want everyone to love playing our games. And in order to make games for everybody, we have to represent everybody. We have to have that innate understanding. It can't just be one opinion. If you have a bunch of white dudes sitting around a table saying this is what's going to be great for women, it's not going to be meaningful, and it's not going to reach the audience that we want to reach. And so it's just really important that when we're making products for everybody, that we have a diverse group of people actually creating them.
Look, it's a numbers game. Women are half of the population, and therefore half of the opportunity.
I'll piggyback too, because I think for me, diversity is really important. And when you get diversity, you actually get a couple things. You get a dynamic that's happening within the actual organization. You get a lot of open-mindedness to actually new ideas and new things. You learn new things that you wouldn't have before. So if you're around a table with people that think the same all the time, you're never going to learn anything at all. And the other cool thing about diversity is that you start to connect ideas to create new ideas. And that's really important for innovation. It's important for building great products. It's just, in general, important for the health of the team that you're working with as well. I think that in general also, when we kind of think about diversity, is that the tech industry and the games industry tends to think of women only being able to serve in certain stereotypical roles. Those tend to be, a lot of times that tends to be marketing, HR, and those types of things. But that needs to broaden, and women also need to start thinking they can visualize themselves in other roles other than that, and really take the opportunity to figure out how can you add value to an industry in roles that you may not actually think exist right now.
I love that. So we talked a lot about having a seat at the table and being present in the room, and all of you as high-powered women, you often have to go in and present and defend your ideas to rooms that are unfortunately still dominated by men. How do you kind of build up the confidence to go into those rooms and, state your case? Do you have any tricks that you can share?
You want to start? Go for it. Okay. Well, I would say practice. I think practice is really important. One of the other things that you can do is have other women as allies. I really like what President Obama's female leadership team does. They support each other in meetings. They have somebody yes and them. So if somebody has an idea or is speaking at the table, another woman will say yes and support that. I think that's important to have allies. I think it's also important to be thoughtful about what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's again, I'm not, I don't view myself as anything less than equal. And so, sorry, Nick, but sometimes I don't really care about, like, in terms of when I'm sitting in the room. I'm just one of the people in the room that are there to make the best decision, and that's really, really critical. But I think when you're in that room, you first of all, you got to speak up. Don't beat around the bush. Just be confident, be clear, and speak up. The other thing is, don't second guess yourself. So if you're wrong, you're wrong. That's totally fine. Own it, move on, don't dwell on it, move on to the next important topic, and that's it.
Yes, and there's no excuse for not being prepared. If you are prepared, there's a pretty good chance that you are the expert in the room. So own that.
You talked a little bit about like being wrong and just being able to own it. I think women in particular have a lot of pressure on them to be perfect all the time. But I think personally, like, mistakes are something we need to celebrate and own up to a lot more. So I don't know if any of you are comfortable like sharing a mistake that you made, or just something that you stumbled on along the way and kind of what you took away from that.
I don't make mistakes.
Well, of course, not you.
Except for me. I'm just kidding. We all make a lot of mistakes. I think early on in my career, I think I owned it a little bit too much. And what I didn't appreciate was the human element to things. Sarah talked about having women supporters and advocates. I would expand that to everybody, all of your colleagues. You need their support in no matter what you do. So don't underestimate that. I made that mistake early on.
Perfect does not exist. And anybody who tells you that it exists is lying, and so therefore imperfect. No, I'm kidding. I make mistakes literally every single day. I mean, I made a huge mistake the other day, and you apologize for it, and you move on, and you say, what have I learned from this? What can I take from this? My mistakes are too numerous to even think of a specific example, but the important thing is how you deal with it. You could crumple, and you could go into a room, and you could, let a failure take over. And if you do that, then you really messed up. If you then say, this was wrong, but I learned this lesson from it, and now I'm going to be even better. And you go out into the world with a little bit more confidence. I think that's really special and important.
Yeah. Yes, and. So I think, I'd like to say, you said at the beginning that no one's perfect, and that is absolutely 100% true. So we all work in the games industry, and so part of the games industry is failure. That is what it is. It's part of the learning curve. The games industry moves way too fast to be perfect. The goal is to accelerate those failures as quickly as possible so you can learn really fast and not fail on the game-winning goal. That's the kind of critical part. So we've just, as a studio, moved to prototyping over the last year, and that's all about failure. That's all about learning. It's all about accelerating those learnings. To your point, don't dwell on it. You fail, own it, move on, and you'll fail again, and that's okay. You're learning.
We talked a bit about advocacy, and I think kind of another key component is just mentorship, even if it's not necessarily in a formal way, but just kind of finding those powerful leaders that you look up to. So I don't know if any of you have a story about like a mentor that helped you in your career, and like a key lesson that you took away from them.
For sure. When I was first out of school, I had a manager who, at one point, I'm not sure what triggered him to say this, but he sat me down. He said, "Judy, don't ever lose your spark. Don't ever lose your passion." And to this day, I still try to live by that.
She's got a lot of spark.
Clearly. I actually have a mentor that I talk to still every day. I try and keep in touch with folks that I've worked with that I really admire. She, when I worked at Blacking Steakhouse, the company was going through a lot of tough times. We'd gone through 6 CEOs, 2 Chapter 11 bankruptcy restructurings. We were going through massive turnaround kind of anxiety. Mary Taylor, she came on board. She was like the 7th CEO, and she was absolutely amazing. I think the biggest thing that she taught me, though, is that you just got to move forward. You've got to get momentum. If there are things that you've got to do, just do it, and then you'll get momentum. Then you start accomplishing things. You start to feel more comfortable. You start to feel more confident, and then things will start working well. But she's an amazing, amazing mentor.
I think this has been a really great discussion. So one last question before we open it up for Q&A. There's one lesson you wanted all the attendees here to take away from today, considering we have people here from all different stages in their career. What would you want that lesson to be?
I'll kick it off, and we'll pass the mic. I think for me, it's having a really strong set of values and knowing what you want. So for me, I always kind of talk about, being really honest, being strong, seeking excellence, and just generally kicking a lot of ass. So just do that.
Yes.
Believe in yourself. You are more powerful than you can imagine. And I see in my daily life women who walk around with a cloud of self-doubt. And I do too. This is not easy. I constantly am like, oh, but if you believe in yourself and you believe you can do it and you look at the things you've already accomplished, you've got so much power, and there's so much that each person can really bring to the table if they believe in themselves and they lose the fear. That's kind of my mantra. I'm afraid. Lose the fear, and when you lose the fear, so much opens up for you. So
I think while you're going through your formative years of high school and college, this is a great time to figure out not just what you're passionate about, but also what you bring to the table, what makes you unique. Because everybody is unique, and everybody can bring that something special to the table. So take your time, figure that out.
Love that. All right, what questions do you guys have? I know we have some on the phone here. No pressure. Yeah. I love that.
that's a great question. I think we should start doing that at our morning meetings, just in general. Okay, shall I start? Okay. I'm a badass because I really care about people and want to build other people up.
That's a hard one to follow. That's a good one. My name's Becky Ann. So badass is in my initials already. I work with an amazing team that I feel like I can do whatever I need to do to be successful, and I'm there to take care of them, and they're there to take care of me. So I really feel that's a strong part of that.
I am a badass because I don't care about what people think.
Yes. Good one. Me? It's about them. It's not about me.
You're badass. Come on. You organized this whole. I know.
Okay, that's my badassness.
Trust me, Amanda is badass.
Other questions?
Can be anybody.
I actually want to run a company in my future. I think I'd love to do that. I think that would be an awesome next step, but that's a ways away. I mean, I feel like right now we have a lot to accomplish in the studio that we've got right now, and I'm learning all of those things day to day, every day, and I feel very I'm happy to be with this team every day.
I don't know, and that's okay. I think I spent a lot of time when I was like 20 being like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Oh my gosh, the anxiety and the spirals. I think that it's okay to not know, and it's okay to go wherever the career path takes you. I'm a mom, and I have a full-time job, and right now I'm in that space. But eventually, who knows? It could be anything. I'll let you know.
I want to start another company. I've done it before, and it was by far the most challenging endeavor I have ever undertaken. But I think I can do it again.
I'll work with you.
Dee Dee?
I literally ask you to sit around the table. But I think encouraging people to speak up, and sometimes in meetings, I don't know if my team has noticed this, but if somebody is talking and starts talking and somebody else talks over them, I try to be like, wait, what? What were you saying? Were you saying something? And hopefully people will get used to doing that themselves. But I remember getting talked over, and it's rather than just like sitting there and being infuriated about it, which I was, 10 years ago. Now I'm just like, excuse me, I'll just finish my point. So I encourage that with my team, and I think it's really important for the team to recognize when that's happening, because I don't think anybody does it to be a jerk. I don't know that anybody does it on purpose. Some people do, but I think for the team to be able to start being like, wait, was somebody making a point? I think that's really important.
I think that's exactly right. I think that's hard sometimes when you get a lot of passionate people in a room, and sometimes if you're a woman and you second guess yourself, you're also not going to have as loud of a voice. So I'd say, like, yes, like if you hear some, like, say, hey, wait a second, let me speak, but also lift your voice, project a little bit more, and make sure that you're in the conversation.
And I say ditto to that. I think you really want to make sure that you can bring something to the table, but once you can bring something to the table, know that you're contributing something to the business, and therefore you should be sitting your ass at the table.
I know we talked about how you do that, and I really appreciate that. And I feel like it just kind of makes people feel more confident, just knowing, like, you giving them permission to talk. I think in future meetings, they're like, wait a minute, I do have something to say. I need to finish that. And also, I think it's important to speak up because you never know, like, when you say something that someone else might be thinking and might have been too scared to speak up, and then they can jump in and be like, oh, yeah, like, I had some thoughts on that, too. I think that's really important. Yes.
Go drinking with them. Oh, was I not supposed to say that out loud?
Shots. I like that. That, which is awesome. And I try to sometimes have one-on-ones on a regular basis with a lot of them in the studio. We also have every 2 weeks a Furiosa lunch that we try to get together and just connect.
I think the connection's important. I mean, the people we work with are humans, and it's really important to get to know them as humans. And it's not work for me to go have coffee with somebody. It's something I really enjoy, and to talk to people, not necessarily in a meeting, but just to get to know them as humans, understand what they're passionate about, and then maybe encourage that passion to come out a little bit more. Judy, drink.
That was my answer, by the way.
We have other questions from the other I Am That Girl girls?
Speak up, lose the fear, be proud of who you are, recognize your own value. I feel like so often, growing up, I had 2 brothers. I was treated a little bit differently. I was asked to do the dishes and more than they were. And, when I brought a boy home from school, the door was open and my parents patrolled it while my little brother, could go into the basement. It's just there were differences. So I really love what Becky Ann was saying about kind of the parents treating people the same. But lose the fear, be proud of who you are, and bring something to the table.
I have nothing to add to that. That was great.
Yeah, don't follow Sarah in these panels because she has the best answers.
Any other questions from the audience? Yeah.
What advice would you give to a young girl maybe coming out of college having a hard time getting into the industry if they've maybe hit a roadblock or they got their first no? What advice would you give them to keep going, strive for that goal?
Okay, the first no is great. Sometimes you realize the first no is horrible because you're like, oh, am I good? Where's my self-confidence? But sometimes the no's in your career lead you to the best opportunities. I got, I've been laid off before. It feels horrible. It's an ego blow. You go into yourself and you're like, why me? But then I found out every time that happened that I just had a better opportunity that led me to something even greater. So that's not quite your question. What I would say to that is no is sometimes really good. But if you really want to get into an industry, whatever it is, learn as much as you can about that industry. Look up people. Nowadays there's LinkedIn, there's Facebook, there are all these tools. Look up the people that are in that industry and see if you can get in contact with them. See if there's anybody that you know. Use your personal network. If your parents have friends, if your teachers or your professors have friends, use people because oftentimes, my story is my roommate's girlfriend was a recruiter. It's always something like that. Don't be afraid to ask for a connection. People are always happy to connect you.
Yeah. I say also change your strategy up. But again, the first no is great because then you know kind of maybe allude a little bit more about what you may need to change about your communication or how you're selling yourself or what positions you want. It also might mean that you need to think about other positions that you may not be thinking. So if you graduate in marketing or you graduate in engineering or whatever, like think broadly about what the potential is and then get your foot in the door that way.
Yes, and don't take it personally because it isn't personal. There are some industries that are harder to get into than others. Fashion is one of them. So if you get one no, that's fine. Now, if you start getting like 100 no's, then you might want to consider like what Becky Ann said, which is maybe going after a different position or maybe going into an adjacent industry. But the first no, it's not personal. Just keep going.
Good question. So for me, it's always just been working relationship. It just kind of happens. It doesn't necessarily, it's not usually forced. It's like a lot of the time will see someone that I admire and that I want to do as much as I possibly can to help that person succeed or to add value to what they're doing or to ask lots of questions and then just let it kind of organically evolve. And that seems to work best.
Yes, and once you get a mentor, understand that you own that relationship, so you have to put in the work to define what you want to get out of it. Early on, I didn't have any women mentors just because it's sometimes difficult to do. So I got male mentors. It's okay. It's okay to do that. But it didn't work initially because I wasn't clear about what I wanted out of it. So make sure that you know what you want to get out of it.
I think that's really important. And this is something that I would look at everybody in the face and say, know your worth. Know your worth and ask for what you deserve. At every, one of the first things that I learned in negotiating a salary is let them make the first offer. And then when they make that offer, don't say anything. Be silent. Be silent for 7 seconds. Seriously, count that in your head. Because that's when it starts to get uncomfortable. And then you say, that sounds like a good place to start. And then the conversation goes, and every time I've done this, I've gotten 5,000 more, 10,000 more, whatever. If I didn't ask, I wouldn't have gotten it. one more quick story, because this is, I've had a couple of experiences that really relate to this. When I was working at a different large gaming company that I won't mention, somebody accidentally sent out an Excel spreadsheet with names and salaries. And I don't think these should be private. I really don't, but that's the way things are sometimes. And I found out that this guy named David, that's his real name, same job, same title, same level of experience, was making $20,000 more than I was. $20,000 more. And I went to my boss, and I was like, what the actual beep, 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 beep. And she's like, I didn't, it's not something we thought about, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, are you going to fix it? And I said, okay, I quit. And I quit. And then I got another job, because I know my value, that paid me $25,000 more than that job. So
amazing.
It's not always going to be that dramatic, but ask for what you're worth. It's not, we want you when we're hiring you. We want you. That means you have something to bring. Ask for it. Don't ever settle. Men just seem like they are trained to do this, from an early age. It's no big deal. Women are like, oh, maybe I'm not worth it. Maybe somewhere inside I'm actually not good enough. I'm lucky. They're lucky to have you. Now, there are things with pay scales and things like that where you can't reach the top, but you must, where people can't offer you more than whatever the job is, but ask for the top. Ask for the top of the range and don't compromise. Okay, I feel passionate about this. Got a little worked up.
Yeah, wow.
Don't settle. Know your worth.
Other questions? I have another question. So you mentioned this right in the beginning, and I know we've talked about it a lot with Covet Fashion, is that women need to feel accomplished. So some of them feel guilt about playing games and just taking time for themselves just to have fun and enjoy it. And through this whole conversation, it's just kind of made me really think about, we're really, really hard on ourselves about everything. And we feel guilt about taking time for ourselves. So I don't know if you have anything that you guys do to really take a moment for yourself. You obviously have very stressful jobs. What do you do to really take time for yourself?
I play games.
Naturally.
That's one of, I read, I do this. I guess I don't really, I used to do that a lot, and now I feel like I've stopped having to ask permission from myself to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, if I want to play 8 to 12 hours of video games, I'm going to do it. It's going to happen. Yeah.
Well, I have a 2-hour commute every day, so I have a lot of me time. me, and everybody else on the road. So that is a great time to just kind of reflect and be self-indulgent, cry, sing, pick my nose.
So I have a full-time job and 2 kids that have soccer and taekwondo and all the other crap that they do. So I don't really know what time to myself means. That's not true. But I do try and carve out some me time, because I've learned that I am a better mom and I am a better person at the office if I do that. So one of the things I do is I try and start the day with meditating. I'll take 10 minutes and use Headspace or Calm and just do some meditation. And it really just, taking a deep breath and being present really helps get me centered for the day. And the days that I don't have time to do it because somebody's come into my room and woken me up early or, threw up or something like that, I feel less centered. So that really helps me at the beginning of the day. And at the end of the day, I'll try to watch something funny on Netflix. I usually fall asleep. But I will take a bath every single night, seriously, and I read a book. And that is the time where do not talk to me. That is my downtime, my chill out time. Now, sometimes people come in and are like, hey, Mom, what are you taking a bath? And I'm like, I thought you were asleep. And that messes up with my relaxation time. But I do try to do that. I do try to carve time. I love to read. That's my favorite thing to do. I love to read. So anytime I can just grab a book and be outside and just, have some time to myself, it's really important. It makes me better. I know that the metaphor of like putting your oxygen mask on first has been tossed around a lot, but I actually think it's really important. I, you know, I struggle when I don't take that time for myself. Good question.
That's great. Really important. Any other questions from the audience? Going once. All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I think this was really incredible, and I really enjoyed this discussion, and I hope everyone here did as well. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you, I Am That Girl, for representing. We will have a little tour, and then we'll have lunch as well, so I encourage you all to come meet Diane here, our representative from I Am That Girl, and have a little chat. No pressure. Make a lot of new friends today. But thank you again, everyone, for coming.
Thank you, Amanda, for putting this together.
Yes, thank you, Amanda.